I don't want there to be a rift or a break in relationship whatsoever because we had to work together. We're trying to do something for the common good of our city, our community. So that could have caused a domino effect that kept us on two different ends of that desk that we sit at in our board meeting, but it didn't. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Family Business Podcast with the Alessis. I'm Steve Alessi, and today you're going to love this because I have a wonderful guest, a new friend that I have in the podcast booth with us, and our audience is going to love her. Her name is Rabbi Robyn Fisher, rabbi over at Temple Beth Or, right down the street from our Dadeland campus in the South. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh my gosh.
We're neighbors.
We are neighbors and new friends. I appreciate this. I was just telling my kids that you are the only one on our board. And we got 20-something people on our board, but you're the only one, somehow or other, we've got this connection. And you've been to both campuses. You were kind enough to be able to come over, see us down south where we first chatted, and then come up here and see in this particular campus. So I thank you for that because it's a give and take on this relationship.
It's more than that. It's a having relationship because we can't know each other. We can't learn from each other. We can't grow unless we get to know each other. And now we've had so many opportunities and we are just imagining the future and what else we can do together.
Well, here we have a Christian and a Jew in a podcast booth. This is like a joke.
I'm waiting for this punchline.
Yeah. No, this is good. It's our second podcast that we're doing together. First one we did with Community News, and Farrah Sachs did a great job with us, which was then what triggered what we're doing today. Because we were talking about anti-Semitism, and that's not a joking matter. My heart for my Jewish friends started back in Westchester, David Stein, not realizing the power of that relationship all these years later, taking our church to Israel a number of times. You're a rabbi right there in our community. You're experiencing the pushback of everything that's going on, the hate, this anti-Semitism. Our board, Miami-Dade County Interfaith Board that we're a part of, asked us to come together and create a campaign to be able to let people know that Jewish hate is real, it's out there, and it's termed anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and more than that, I think that anti-Semitism is usually a bellwether for the temperature of a whole community, of a nation, and that it's usually the tipping point of a lot of hate, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's women, whether it's Asian, we can go on, that somehow over the centuries, the millennium, Jews have been that bellwether, or anti-Semitism has been for it.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy thought.
Yeah. Well,
Do I look any different than anybody else you know? I don't know.
No. Well, and the Christians experience their own prejudice and hate, and for standing on really comes down to a belief system with our Christian brothers and sisters, because we say that we embrace biblical values. Those biblical values do have a stance from our perspective on what a lifestyle of righteousness looks like and what a lifestyle of unrighteousness looks like. And when we teach that, some take that to mean and think that we are preaching or teaching hate, when really what it is a understanding, a biblical understanding. So there's no outright hate towards any people group when we look at our biblical principles. The difference with our Jewish community is it's not so much a belief system that you are being hated for, it's who you are as people. That you have enemies that want to literally push you into the sea, drown you out. That whole push you into the sea, drown you out, do away with you, every last one of you on the planet. Planet's going to be a better place without Jews. That is hate.
It's very much hate. And I wonder, what is the source of that? Is it a mirror to what they're not doing? because we were talking about our ancient roots and our traditions and the values that are embedded in the Old Testament are things that we also are just trying to promote and to live out our lives
Hmm.
and to make this world a better place. We talk about loving your neighbor. We talk about, just all lifting up the 10 commandments, and all of our 613 commandments are, for the most part, all focused on spreading love and compassion and correcting the injustices of the world.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we've been aligned with a lot of people who we thought we were our partners in that quest to make the world a better place. And yet they don't see that when it comes to Jews.
Yeah.
And it became very clear after October 7th how we've been marginalized and pushed away from that narrative of caring for people who are being discriminated against.
Yeah.
There's a different narrative when it comes to Jewish people.
Hmm. Even at the highest levels of government, we're seeing it, that there is such a hate towards our
Yeah.
Jewish friends. That's crazy.
It,
That's crazy. So
it's
we're talking about this.
yeah.
I think it's what connects us, quite frankly, uh, because my spiritual roots, and your spiritual roots started at the same place, at that mountain. Abraham, Father Abraham had many sons. Father Abraham. Okay, that we have that connection, and if we share the root, then the fruit should be similar. And I'm picking up on a similar fruit here with us.
Listen, I have such incredible respect that you are walking the walk, that you recognize from our early connection to each other that there was an issue that needed addressing, and that you didn't just say, oh, yeah, it needs addressing. You actually are making that happen.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. We say in Hebrew,
Oh.
kol hakavod, I mean, all the honor to you, um, because you're a leader and you're showing others how to be a leader too. And it all begins, as we've discussed over and over again, with educating people and recognizing, one, that there's a problem,
Hmm.
two, how are we educating our children and ourselves to have a greater awareness and sensitivity to the needs of people.
Hmm.
And it's not just, by the way, I wanted to, like, just if I can do with respect, correcting, it's not just because we have our roots and we were at Sinai. It's because we are all made in the image of God.
Hmm.
Every person in this world is made as a child of the Holy One,
Yeah.
of our spiritual essence.
Hmm.
Um, and we were put on this in this world to bring justice, to bring goodness, to bring love to the world
Yeah.
together,
Hmm.
not in spite of certain people, and not to the denigration of another,
Hmm.
but to lift them up.
So many things going through my mind, and I'm gonna forget half of them. You mentioned 613 laws. You mentioned our laws. Every law that was given so that people as a community would be able to function without overstepping boundaries. Most of those laws were for that. How am I going to treat my neighbor?
Mm,
So it's not just a matter of do's and don'ts, it's a matter of respectfully being able to survive and contribute to a society so that the society is better off. Now, you and I didn't start off necessarily on the right foot.
hmm,
And you share with our last podcast that we did together, it was a joke that I said made reference to finances and needing finances to be raised. And I said, come on, my Jewish friends. And that didn't go over well at all with you. It was a matter of ignorance with a comment that was being made. It was a lack of knowledge on my part, and immediately addressed that. Said, no, that's not what I'm meaning. I don't want there to be a rift or a break in relationship whatsoever, because we had to work together. We're trying to do something for the common good of our city, our community. So that could have caused a domino effect that kept us on two different ends of that desk that we sit at in our board meeting, but it didn't. Thankfully, it allowed us to really come together. So
and deepened
Yeah.
more than just tolerate, but we grew in that relationship, and that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
That yes, there are lots of conflicts. We can't even talk to our own family members oftentimes, people who in our own political, parties. There's such strife in the world, but if we can sit down and talk to each other and find the humanity in one another, to find our what bonds us together,
Hmm.
because there's gonna be something. It's just
Yeah.
about communicating and finding that relationship. It can actually be better than it was
Yeah.
and deeper and more meaningful.
But without conversation, that's never going to happen.
No.
That's why we're in this booth. That's why we've sat
Yes.
down with community news. That's why we're saying we want, as two religious leaders in our community that share different faiths but are similar, okay? We want to figure out how we can have more dialogue to teach people how destructive this anti-Semitism is. It can't exist. If anything's going to be thrown into the sea, it needs to be this anti-Semitism. So I'm needing you to educate my Christian followers that are part of my church, part of our family business is us doing ministry as a family. Can you help me teach them? So tell us, what is
Hmm.
anti-Semitism?
Wait, how much time do we have?
Right? I got you.
Oh, goodness. It's very encompassing. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much that we can educate in this moment, but maybe
Right.
it'll be just the beginning of a conversation or a series
Good.
of conversations or a program that we initiate together.
Mm-hmm.
We may have to talk about that.
Yes.
So I'd say anti Semitism is not like other forms of hatred, because even the most well meaning, well intentioned people who want to make sure that there were no injustices and people aren't hated don't see it with regard to Jewish people. For some reason, they are othered. There's an exception to it. We love everybody else. We want to fight for the underdog, except for when it comes to Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And that became very clear after October 7th, as I mentioned before. And I'll give you a couple of examples, which we may not have thought about
Good.
prior to this. Um, on October 7th, Hamas infiltrated Israel and slaughtered and sexually abused men, women, and children of all ages, from the elderly, our grandparents, to babies that were dismembered and sexually abused, all ages. There was not one word. The world was silent when it came to that incident. They pivoted instead and said that we were the aggressors for attacking and defending Israel. Um, and there was no discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Not the women's groups, not,
Mm-hmm.
who advocate sexual, advocacy, in terms of protecting women's rights and their bodies, not human rights groups where, people were just innocent civilians were killed in the middle of the night in a festival with, a concert where young people were having the time of their lives, free living, and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Instead, we were the aggressors.
Yeah.
We're the colonizers. We are the ones that are the devil with, horns.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that picture? Any group, any liberal group would have been up in arms about that. We do it for much lesser causes, and
Mm-hmm.
we ignore other areas in the world too, by the way. Afghanistan, what about what United States did in slaughtering hundreds and thousands of people? But no, it's when, the Jews are just defending their country and retaliating for what not Palestinians did per
Mm-hmm.
se, but what Hamas did, a terrorist organization that is not synonymous or reflective of the goodwill of Muslims and the values that they, also hold dear, just like Christians and
Mm-hmm.
and Jewish people, but of a radical, Iran-based terrorist organization, but nothing.
Mm-hmm. And you still have hostages that
Still,
are
we haven't
being held.
heard from, and there's no discussion about, it's all about when are we withdrawing from, we meaning
Right.
Israel,
Israel.
withdrawing from Gaza, not about when Hamas returns the hostages and the bodies now that are mounting,
Mm,
um, then the fighting will end.
right.
But when we cease,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
it's a
So,
it's a double standard.
and the average person looks at this and they're listening to the news and they're seeing these um, college campuses, these students, these professors that are wearing the Palestinian garb, that are actually holding pro Hamas signs. They think there's power in numbers. So if there's so many people that are standing up for the Palestinians and even Hamas, then evidently they're right and something's wrong with the Jewish state. This isn't just now that this has happened since October 7th. This goes back for years, thousands of years.
Well, it becomes latent at one point, and then it kind of heightens, and then we can look to lots of different reasons why this has been flamed. Um, and we won't get into politics, but opening up that dialogue and enabling people to cross the line from free speech, I think, is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have unfettered free speech. As a parent, would you let your children say and do whatever they want? No,
Mm-mm.
we live within boundaries.
Right.
That's what our commandments do. It channels our base behavior and our language so that we can live together and not flame violence and physical abuse and threatening behavior.
So I'm an older person, have wisdom, lived some things,
I think we're
learned.
the same age, and I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not. Not me. I'm talking generalizing a comment here. Ready? So I sit down at the table with my younger child, who is more caught up in getting their news from social media, getting their history from what's being advertised now. How do I, as a parent, as an older parent, have this conversation around the dinner table with my kids, a younger generation, to instruct them on what anti-Semitism is and why it's so devastating and hurtful and wrong?
I think we have to look at our sources because there is so much untruth out in the world that is being used as a propaganda piece to negate what is literally true. And so I think what happened with our healthy debates, there's no more situation where we're allowed to have disagree, but presenting truths on the table and say, let's just talk about this. I would say, let's check our sources, making
Good.
sure that we have the right factual
Yep.
information behind
Perfect.
us, and directing them to not believe everything that's on the internet, to
Good.
engage in a healthy intellectual conversation, trying to put yourself in the shoes of and understand the situation from both perspectives. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was in high school that I would engage in a debate team and you had to take on a side. You were assigned a side and you have to take that on. Well, let's try that.
Mm.
What if you tried from the perspective of another and do some investigating about what are the argumentations that we can present that are not being addressed or that maybe you're not seeing. Let's try that.
Yeah. Uh, and I think that's got to be an ongoing dialogue, because one conversation does not change the mind of a person that we're trying to show truth to. We see that in just our line of profession. We teach, and people know better. You think when they know better, they do better, but it's that consistent teaching and instructing that helps people. So it's not a one and done. I can't have one dialogue with my kids and think they got it right.
No.
It's got to be a
No, and
continuous.
it can't be with a heightened tension either and temperature of a conversation. We're just having a conversation, and let's just talk about this,
Right.
right? That I think that's really important. I'm not attacking you. You can't attack me because we're never going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be open. In Judaism there's a prayer, it's like one of the primary prayers that we say. It's the Shema, and it's in the scroll of the mezuzah that we hang on our door. And the Shema is listen. And oftentimes we hear, but we're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
Listening requires intention and thoughtfulness and not thinking about, oh, what's Pastor Alessi saying so that I can think about my next question or my next line of reasoning. I'm listening to you and hearing what you have to say in a very deep, visceral way.
Mm.
There's a big difference.
Big. Now, we share our heritage of Christianity and Judaism is shared. We go back to Father Abraham. Here's where we come from. We being Metro Life, me as a pastor. Scripture speaks about God saying to Abraham, "I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you." We don't think that has changed one bit, and we want to be on the right side of blessing. That's why we as a church do bless our Jewish friends. I pray over you. I pray when I drive by going down to 87th Avenue, going to go Walgreens, go to the Falls. I pass by your place there, which I've loved for years.
Mm.
And I just extend my hand that way and just say, Father, bless them.
Mm.
Bless Rabbi Fisher, her husband, and her kids. I believe in a tangible blessing. And with that, a tangible blessing, I believe our church has experienced a tangible blessing. Just finished a remodel project, over $5 million. Pretty much, we're just shy about $1 million or so, but provisions coming in. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences for me to be a part of because my dad built that church with his hands. I was raised on that property. I swam in that pond in the back. So to see us be able to remodel it, that's a tangible blessing. I'm not sure I would have that if it wasn't for our posture towards our Jewish friends. The other, just as tangible as that is, Rabbi, when he says, I'll curse those who curse you, that's tangible as well. And we teach our people, we don't get on the side of that curse. We stay on the side of grace. And that side of grace is there's a blessing that comes for blessings, our Jewish friends. Raising our hands.
Right. Do we know where that line is?
Now, raising our hand against our Jewish friends is where I believe we step into that curse.
Right, but there's ignorance. That's the part that you and I are working on educating.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that you intend to be on the side, not you, use
Yes,
to be on the
yes.
side of cursing.
Right.
But if we don't walk the walk, and I think that prayer is so important, and we don't know the power of it until we are in a position to actually be able to receive the prayers. But I think that prayer has to be coupled with action,
Mm-hmm.
that your prayers become much more meaningful and have much more teeth
Mm-hmm.
when you can apply your prayers in the world in which we live, when we can do something to combat those curses of the world, those injustices, like we're trying to do now. What are those next steps that will enable us to fend off those curses? Eh, That's what we have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Praying is important, but praying has to be coupled with behavioral change, behavioral positive acts towards other people. Loving your neighbor. How do you love your neighbor if you don't know your neighbor?
Right. Right.
We didn't know each other before. And I have such a deep respect for you and for the church and the community that you and your family have and are continuing to build. It's another world. Just like your community may not know me and what I'm trying to build too in terms of bringing love and compassion and justice to the world.
Mm-hmm.
But can you imagine together what we can do?
Yeah.
with
can.
behavior, our prayers and our actions,
Yeah.
our thoughts,
You
our
know, and you and I don't have to agree on everything.
no.
We have different viewpoints and opinions on things in society and culture. Politically, I'm sure we have differences of opinion. That's not wrong. Matter of fact, what I know about our two parties politically, 80% is agreed upon in our two parties, two different parties that are in our country today.
Mm.
They agree on 80%. Only 20% are things that they disagree on.
Mm.
And we major on that 20% rather than on the 80% that we agree on. I would rather look at you as an individual. I see that we have so much more in common than we do not. That a lot of what we don't share, that we don't have in common, probably is because environment, things that we saw, things that we experienced, things that affected us one way or the other from our past. That should never get in the way of the 80% that we have an agreement on. So from a Christian's perspective, as a religious leader, you know, we go to Israel. Last time we were there, my focus was on trying to show our people that were there with us. Please look at Jesus, not from a Christian perspective, because he wasn't a Christian. He was a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the rabbi, because he taught as a rabbi, he learned as a rabbi, he taught as a rabbi, he was referred to as a rabbi. So my focus on our last trip was to make sure our church family knew we're following the footsteps of a rabbi and what he would have been taught, how he would have been treated and such.
Mm.
So, you know, when you and I talk on occasion, you'll mention Rabbi so-and-so instructs this way. I have a rabbi.
Yeah.
And our rabbi that I really has established my life on is Rabbi Jesus, Rabbi Christ. So those are things that we share together. And even though your rabbi is one rabbi, I have a different, we still have our faith that unites us together.
Sure.
And so from that standpoint, we're on the same page. And us sitting here talking, this audience, hearing your heart helps open them up to, I believe, in the partnership with God that says things to them that you or I cannot say to them. Through the leading of the Spirit, God starts to speak to them as they're hearing it now. And this podcast isn't just listened to by people that share my faith. But I do believe, even as they hear this, and I'll tear up here in just a second, because I really appreciate the peace of which we can have a dialogue and we can find agreement and we can embrace that agreement. I'm told to pray for the peace of Israel. And if I'm praying for the peace of Israel, I'm praying for the peace of my Jewish friends so that they don't have to go through this hate and fear and second guessing who's with me, who's not. Worried that look that they just received from somebody may be a look that is filled with hate and judgment and could cause them harm and pain. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for your community and your people. So we're starting a journey here. We're not sure where it's going to take us, but there's people that needs to hear that this anti-Semitism, this hate towards our Jewish friends is wrong. And it's going to be destructive to their own life if they buy into it.
We need more Pastor Alessis in this world.
Oh, you're precious.
I'm very touched by your emotions, your sensitivity, your prayers, and your actions. I pray that your community can hear your words and feel the depth of your soul in ways that I am right now. I mean, you and I are looking into each other's eyes with such deep respect and love.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
It is.
Because there's so much that we can accomplish together. And being judgmental of people without knowing, hating somebody without knowing them is just not the way of Jesus. It's not the way of the Jewish people. It's not the way of the Muslim world and Muhammad. I would venture to say that we all share those deep core values that we've spoken about.
Yeah.
So let's get back to them.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we don't veer off that course because as I was alluding to before, I don't know whether we always know when we are going off that course,
Yeah.
but we can return. In our Jewish tradition, when we get to the high holy days, we talk about teshuvah, that we all have the potential to return to the essence of who we are and who we are meant to be in this world. And we have to see the other as having that potential, no matter what,
Yeah.
because we're all made b'Tselem Elohim in the image of God,
Mm-hmm.
all of us.
Yes. Love that.
And that we can see that humanity and that love in each other, despite what your politics are, or despite where we differ. But there's a deep sense of connection that we have, and it started with a rough beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the potential,
Yeah.
and look how far we've come on this journey.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This was fun. I
Mm.
appreciate your time, appreciate your heart, appreciate you coming up here and just being in our world. Your pursuit as a rabbi to just be willing to step over into this world means a lot to me, because I have some other rabbi friends that just they're not willing yet.
Mm.
And
Well, we're going to inspire
we
others to step up
we are.
and to maybe tread where it's less than comfortable.
Yeah.
And that means even dialoguing where it's less than comfortable, because it pushes us to expand our capabilities.
Yeah.
That's where we grow.
Yeah.
It's not where we're comfortable.
Your training as a rabbi, you more or less over the years, the rabbi they learn by arguing.
Oh,
They learn by debating.
Yeah.
That's not, and on our end, it's like, oh, you got to listen to me. I've got the word on this. And if somebody argues with you back or has a funny, oh no, oh, they're rebellious. No, you guys get in there, you hammer it out, boom.
See why my sleeves are rolled up.
There you go.
There's a difference between a house of study and a library. A library, you can't make a sound, you're tiptoeing, someone cracks a bottle or a can, you're like, oh. In a house of study, if there is not people jumping up and talking and debating with that energy, but there's civil discourse.
Yeah.
And there's respect.
Yeah.
It's not trying to speak above somebody. It's not denigrating anybody. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need to get back to, that I think we've lost sight of in our community and in our nation and in the world in which we live.
Well, we're starting something.
Yeah.
Step 2, we're here.
We
making
are.
some noise, and we'll follow this up. We'll have our board meeting this week. We'll be in another environment, and we'll be able to give an update of what we've trying to accomplish, and believing that more people will join us in
I'm
this.
so grateful for you. Thank you so much. And I'm
likewise.
blessed to be here. I hope that I will come back again and we'll get to play and dialogue and work towards making this world a little bit better.
We got to. So thank you for joining us today on The Family Business with the Alessis, because I've enjoyed having a new friend that Mary and I have grown to appreciate, Rabbi Robyn Fisher. And listen, have the dialogue, have the conversation with your people, get the word out. We bless Israel, and we pray for the conflict and the war. We pray for the region. We want peace, the peace of Israel and Jerusalem. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and click on the notifications bell so you can be notified for all of our future videos. And if you loved today's topic, we have plenty more. And you can click on this link right here to watch all of our videos so you can learn why family is everybody's business.